Hey Karen, thanks for joining us today to talk about appeals. It's definitely appeal season for nonprofits, and I know High Note works with a lot of nonprofits in this community. Can you share a little bit about how many nonprofits you all work with around this time of year on appeals?
Yes, Andrea. I know we work with about 25 to 30 nonprofits throughout the year for their direct marketing communications and their fundraising campaigns. And you did sum it up. This is a very busy time of year as it is everybody's working on their end of year appeal campaigns.
Yeah, for sure. And you all, I've worked with you all personally on appeals, and you all can do some really unique things. So, can you share a little bit about what trends you're seeing this year, in particular, when it comes to mailed appeals?
Yeah, so one thing is that colored envelopes are still very popular. As you will see, I've got a variety up here, very popular. And it's a mixture as far as some organizations will send out with nothing really on the front, just a return address on the back. That keeps them compliant with the USPS with their nonprofit status and for the postage rates. And other organizations may add a special message to the front. You can see there's just a variety of different pieces that people may put their logo on the front or a teaser message. It really just depends on the organization and their donor base. One of the things also is you'll notice about some of these envelopes is their shape. So not only about the color, but a lot of them are either the larger envelopes. They're more like a greeting card or a 6x9 envelope. And the color and the size helps them stand out. If you do send out a number 10 package, I still recommend adding color like these. They have a full bleed. And when you're sorting through your mailbox at home, it stands out from the white envelopes, your standard business envelopes. We all get them, credit card, insurance companies, they want you to refinance your mortgage, all those types of things. So anything you can do that really helps you stand out and differentiate from other typical pieces that people will find in their mailbox. Several organizations, as far as trends, several are also opting to send out a piece 2 or 3 weeks before their appeal that is an update or results or impact. You can call it any of those types of things, but they want to educate and inform their donor base on what has happened since their last gift. And so they send out, hey, here's the results. This is the impact we're making in the community. And this is also, they also show need, because there needs to be also that continued need that's displayed so that donors know, oh, okay, this is the good work that's happening with my money. There's still an ongoing or growing need, so I'm going to continue to give to this organization. That's one of the areas. Not too copy heavy. Here's a couple of samples. This probably has one of the larger amounts of copies. This was actually from a couple of years ago, where there's a message about a story and a letter that has the ask. So, less words right now is more. Unfortunately, life is busy. People don't take the time to read multi-page letters. And so bulleted points, short stories, if you can get it down to 150 to 200 words, that's probably about where people's attention span begins and ends. The 2 different sizes, we talked when I showed up the envelopes, there was the 2 different sizes, and this piece kind of does go inside with the greeting card. So it kind of looks like, you're getting a card in your mailbox, and everybody wants to open something that doesn't look like a bill, right? And another one is a letter style, and it folds out, looks like a letter, but it folds to go inside of the 6x9, the larger envelope. Always return envelope. Make it easy for people to respond and to give to you. Personalization is still huge. The more relevant and personalized you can make that piece to the individual donor, the better it is and the more engaged they will be. If you can indicate, what their last gift was or that giving history. People, like I said, life is busy right now. We've known that. It just keeps getting busier. But if you can tell and remind somebody that they gave you $250 gift last year, then that triggers the memory when they're sending out their checks and getting ready to send in their gift to you this year. They're not like, oh, okay, I'll just give them $100. You don't want to leave money on the table. And that's one of those things that you can reference. Oh, dear Karen, thank you last year for your gift of $100. Would you consider matching that gift again this year or increasing it to 125. In the results that I have seen in campaigns, you know, there will always be a few, just because circumstances may change, there will always be a few that give less, but the majority will give that same gift amount or increase it to that suggested amount. So that's definitely an area. QR codes, they're making a comeback. We know that during the pandemic, you know, with the first round about what, 6, 7, 8 years ago, they kind of died off faster than they started. And with the pandemic last year, and nowadays phones have the instant recognition of a QR code through their cameras, you don't have to download a separate app. So it makes it much easier to use QR codes. You can design and set that QR code up to go directly to your donor page where people can give their gift online. Makes it easy. QR codes also don't have to just be the ugly little black and white pixely looking squares. You can put a logo in them, you can use colors in them, and there's extra things that you can do to draw attention and make those more fun in your messaging. And then there's also some different, just, you know, incorporating in the digital type components. So there's all kinds of fun stuff you can do to help beef up your appeals.
That is so cool I didn't know that about the QR codes, or maybe I did and I had forgotten that you can make them look a little bit cooler. And also, you made me think like the website it goes to could be designed similar to your appeal and have a related story, and the thank you note can have a related story, and it can all sort of tie together, and that can be a really neat piece.
Correct. If you can have it, that dedicated landing page off of your website that tells them more about that story, maybe you're given just a snippet in your appeal, but you want to tell more of the story, that gives that donor the opportunity to learn more and read more about that individual situation or the additional work that your organization is doing. So yeah, that's definitely, and the more that you can make it look the same, all of your digital ads to look like it is truly the same messaging, same look as an omni-channel approach, the more successful, because you know, marketing of any kind, and that's what fundraising is. It's a form of marketing. You know, it's about consistency. So it's repetition and consistency of messaging. And so somebody might have to see something 8 to 12 times to take action.
Yeah, and even a video could be on the site or in their emails that relate to it. And this is a question that we didn't plan, so I'm sorry to throw it your way, but do you know, like, do people usually time their emails around the time that the mailed appeals are sent? Is there any advice with that?
Yes, I would still suggest that. You know, and there's some cool technology that's out there nowadays. I know we have a platform that utilizes it, and then I'm sure there are others, but it's mail tracking. And so you can time it to where you know roughly when those mail pieces are going to arrive in mailboxes, so you can schedule your appeals and any other communication. If you also have outbound calls that you have scheduled, you know, you're like, okay, I know that these mailers are scheduled to hit this week. So our fundraising team, or for the small organizations, the development person can schedule the calls to make to those key donors who do give annually consistently, to make sure that you can count on them for their gift that they historically have always given. And you can even, you know, our platform allows you to look at a dashboard and see exactly, oh yes, Karen Olson received her mail piece. So I can call and follow up with her. You know, it's that next week, the next day, whatever the timing is of yours method. And same thing with email. Time it all together.
That is really neat. And of course you can see through like MailChimp or Constant Contact that they opened your email. So that's really neat. So clearly a lot of fundraisers have this on their brain right now. Is there any advice as we really get to the height of when appeals need to go out? Any other advice that you have for people as they work on these?
One is, I would say, reach out to your service provider ASAP if you are not already in communication with them about your appeals. I'm sure that everyone is aware that there are supply chain disruptions and shortages everywhere. And that's no different with between paper and manufacturing of special make envelopes and those types of things, that the more planning can be done in advance, the better. So have those conversations now, sooner than later. You know, get your content and appeals in early. That's two of the biggest things. It's going to be interesting. I do know from a recent update with the Postal Service is they have planned and have staffed up and have additional about 5 million square feet of space across the country, where, and I think it was 47 or 49 facilities that they have in place for extra sort and processing. You know, last year, all of the packaging caused some bottlenecks throughout the country for mail delivering, and it did also affect their regular mail delivery in some instances. So they have really stepped up and working to plan to not have a repeat of last year, which is good. But now there's the paper challenges. It's taken longer to get paper in. It's taken longer to turn manufacturing, and then the trucking, transportation, you know, from just to transport paper or those raw goods to your service provider, mail house. There could be an extra few days in there for that. So it's still going to be different this year. So plan.
They're very good points. Is there a specific date, week, etc., that you think you should drop this in the mail this week? This is the best time to get people to put their eyes on it.
You know, a lot of, we do a variety of mailings. We have some clients, it depends on what their overall communication strategy is. We have some that will send out like a gratitude piece in early November. They have a two-step approach. They'll send out a thanking their donors, a gratitude, and then they do the ask either the end of November or the first week of December. So we have some clients who utilize that strategy. As I mentioned earlier, there are some that are sending out that document, whether it's a postcard, a fold over, some type of impact summary, a results summary, 2 to 3 weeks before they send out their appeal. The bulk of what we're doing, though, does go out those first 3 weeks of November. They want that to hit before Thanksgiving. And so that, and we see success across the board with all of them, but, you know, just by sheer numbers of, we send out more during that time period. So we see, you know, good results during that time, just when we start hearing back from our clients on the results of their campaign. So that does seem to be a good window and timeline.
Okay, perfect. So when nonprofits are thinking about who should I send these appeals to, especially the mailed appeals, and then, you know, talking with their board about, okay, it's worth this cost because we could potentially hear back from this many of those donors. How's that kind of look typically?
Yeah, so, you know, I think that for end of year, a lot of those see the best success with their existing donors and lapsed donors. So those who have given probably within the past 3 years, I would say, either current or within that 3-year cap. You know, it's not to say that you can't acquire new donors during this time period, but the greater success I have seen with organizations with acquisitions are those that start that in January through March, and they educate and inform all throughout the year, that whole process, and then are included in that end of year ask. But the majority are, you know, if you have to trim down your budget and you want to get the most bang for your buck, I would look at those who are most likely to give to your organization. So looking at your current donors, obviously, because they are the most loyal and are more likely to give, as well as the recently lapsed, because you have a good opportunity to recapture them and reconnect with them. That's, you know, and one example, actually, this may have been a different question that we had talked about is direct mail still alive? And I can say that direct mail is still very much alive and thriving with nonprofits. It is one of the most successful ways of fundraising. You know, direct mail by itself, you're going to see like a 3 to 6% response rate. Digital marketing by itself, we know that the digital numbers are fractional oftentimes. But when you combine and have that perfect marriage of physical print direct mail and digital mail, it can increase 23 to 46% the response rate. You know, I have a client that we just recently went over results last week, and we deployed a summer appeal. It was early summer, and hers was specifically to lapsed donors. It's a relatively small amount of individuals they send out. It wasn't like thousands and thousands of pieces, but we had the printed appeal and then different digital touches, including the USPS informed delivery, social ads, and Google ads. And they had a 29% response rate and a 3,826% ROI.
Wow.
And that 29% response rate, she tracked that back to individuals on the mailing list. Now, some may have given online. That's how they chose to give their gift, because she gave them 4 ways that they could respond. They could mail back the envelope, they could go online and give, they could text to give. But 29% of her mailing list gave in some capacity. And they had the series of ads, you know, like I said, it had Google, Facebook, and Instagram ads, as well as Google ads, and then informed delivery. And when you combined all that together, that was the results. So, you know, she'll definitely say that, you know, mailing is a key component, one of the key components of their campaigns, and it's alive and doing well.
That's great. You know, I'm thinking about how I typically donate. I like to get something in the mail, but then I will 100% of the time make the donation online. So yeah, that combo is so great. What do you tell, especially a small nonprofit with a very tight budget, that's debating investing in maybe a design like you all put together, or just spending more on their mail appeals this year? What would you tell them to say to their board as far as why it's worth the money?
So a couple of things, you know, one is you have to start somewhere. You know, we work with organizations of all sizes, and some are small and they're like, oh, well, I'm just too small to get started. It's like, well, you'll never grow. You have to start somewhere, and then you just grow from there. So, you know, I've had appeals, clients I've worked with where it's their first time ever doing an appeal, or it's their first time sending it out of house. They might do their own letters internally, but they're looking to do something different. And, you know, set a realistic goal. That goal might be to break even, because you're not just going to, it might break even financially just for that campaign. Oftentimes they exceed that goal. I've had multiple campaigns that have tripled what that goal was, and they actually did raise funds during that. But it is also about the awareness. It increases your brand awareness, and then you have to just, again, build from there with that consistency in communication to your donors in your donor base. And also, you know, knowing your donors, how do they want to hear from you? That also ties into the digital. You know, if you have older donors, they're going to want that envelope to mail back. They're not going to go online to make a gift, at least the majority are not. So it's a combination. Like you said, what triggers that? You know, they receive the mail piece, they set it to the side because life is busy. Oh, then they see an ad, or they receive the email that you tied into that, you know, and sent to them the next day after their mail piece arrived. So then it triggers that, oh yeah, I meant to do that. I set it to the side. You know, they'll either go online, or they'll go back and find that mail piece that is sitting on their table in their stack of mail.
Yep. That's so great. You've offered wonderful tips. Is there anything else that you want to add in that we didn't touch on today?
Just, you know, just talk with your service provider, you know, ask about these additional services. There's a lot of cost-effective ways that you can amplify your direct mail. You know, direct mail still constitutes a large percentage of effectiveness for nonprofits. People are in this, digital is effective as well when combined, but I would not rely on really either one by itself independently. You know, it's your organization needs to stay sustainable for the future mission of that organization. And then the last little part also, and it's kind of more so not because we are at the end of year, but you know, take time to invest in your database cleanup and your database hygiene. That is probably one of the biggest key things is, you know, like I said, you're kind of where we are right now going into fourth quarter, because I can't believe that Friday is already October. But, you know, make that a goal for the 2022 calendar year, is to really, if your database is kind of like scary, as a lot of people indicate that they can be, take the time to invest. Talk with an outside source such as Data with Solutions and Judith Youngblood, or someone else that handles that type of specialty if you need to outsource it, because that's the lifeblood of your organization. It's like oxygen. And if you don't maintain that and keep good records of your database moving forward, what does that mean for the longevity of these appeals? Because the clean database helps result in the success of these direct mail campaigns.
Yeah. Amen.
That's kind of my final words. Is it does start with data, and I know data can be a scary subject. It can be painful. It can be a lot of things, but really, it's like a foundation. If you can start with good data, then it doesn't necessarily matter if this is the outside of your appeal or this is. That plays a part. Don't get me wrong, but it goes back to the list. And if you're unsure about whatever the status, mail less pieces, but to those people who are more likely to give, and target it and do it well, than sending it out and just, saying that prayer that something sticks and somebody responds. Get really targeted and focused and personalized with your direct mail.
Excellent advice that I know we'll put to good use this fall. Thank you so much, Karen. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Andrea.